The unexamined life is not worth living. Who am I? It's a simple question. 3 words, but it has a way of sitting in the back of your mind like a splinter. Most of the time, you ignore it. You bury it under the responsibilities, routines, and roles. But sometimes the world goes quiet, the night feels longer than it should, or life just cracks in a way you didn't see coming. And that's when the question shows up. And suddenly, you're forced to confront it again. The easiest answer is the surface one. You look at your job, your relationships, the things you own, the hobbies that fills your free time. I'm a student. I'm a father. I'm an artist. I'm someone who likes music. And those things are true, sure, but what happens if tomorrow all of it disappears? If the title, the role, the identity you've been clinging to is stripped away, who's left standing in the rubble? Would you recognize them? Or would you feel like a stranger to yourself? Identity is slippery because it's never just in your own hands. It bends and twists depending on who's looking at you. To your parents, you might always be the child they raised, even if you're 35 and paying bills. To your friends, you're the version of yourself that makes them laugh, the one they rely on for certain things. To strangers, you're just another face they pass on the street. And the strange thing is, they're all right, but none of them hold the full picture. That's when you start to wonder, maybe there isn't a full picture. Maybe identity isn't some hidden truth waiting to be found. Maybe it's a process, one that never stops moving. You're not carved into stone. You are rewritten daily, with every choice you make and every choice you avoid. Who you were 5 years ago isn't who you are now, and who you are now won't be who you'll become 10 years from today. So then, who's the real you? The child? The adult? The friend? The stranger? Or is the truth that all of them count? But that doesn't end the problem, because if identity is always shifting, then what holds it together? What's the thread that runs through all those versions of yourself? The one that makes you feel like a continuous story instead of scattered fragments. Or, and this is the uncomfortable thought, maybe there is no thread. Maybe we're just actors swapping masks, convincing ourselves there isn't a real face underneath. Kierkegaard once said, the most common form of despair is not being who you are. But how do you even know when you're living as yourself, and not just playing a role someone else handed you? Nietzsche would argue that most people never do, that they live as what he called the herd, conforming to whatever feels safe, never daring to become the Ubermensch, the person who creates their own values when the old one collapses. But then, Sartre takes it further. He says we don't have a choice. We are, in his words, condemned to be free. Condemned because even when we hide behind excuses, even when we say, that's just who I am, we are still making choices. Every moment, whether we want to or not, we are defining ourselves. And Camus laughs at the whole pursuit. To him, the search for permanent answer to who I am is absurd. Like Sisyphus rolling the stone up the hill, only for it to tumble back down. And yet, Camus doesn't tell us to stop. He tells us to imagine Sisyphus happy, to find meaning in the act itself, not the conclusion. Strangely enough, Buddhism says something similar with anatta, the idea of no self, that the I you're clinging to is just a bundle of passing sensations, memories, and roles. There is no solid core, no eternal me. which sounds terrifying until you realize it's also freeing. You don't have to hold on to an identity like it's a fragile glass. You can let it move, let it change, and let it dissolve. Heraclitus, long before any of them, said, "You can't step into the same river twice, because both you and the river have already changed." Maybe that's a real answer. You're the river, always flowing, always in motion, never the same, but somehow still you. So maybe the search itself is the point. Maybe there is no fixed self, no ultimate definition. Maybe who am I isn't a question with an ending but a compass that keeps us moving. The point isn't to nail down an identity once and for all, but to accept that we are unfinished. That we're not supposed to be, we're supposed to become. So, who am I? Today I can give you an answer. Tomorrow, those answers will shift. And in 10 years, I'll probably laugh at the certainty I thought I had right now. But maybe that's the beauty of it. To be human is to never be complete, to constantly rewrite the script. And maybe the truest self is not the one you name, but the one you keep creating, moment by moment, choice by choice.